How are we doing, everybody? UFC Thoughts here, and today I'm going to be going over my picks and breakdown for every fight on UFC 305, Plessis vs. Adesanya on August 17th, 2024. Timestamps in the comments below. Let's get right into it with the first fight of 12. We start with Stewart Nicoll versus Jesús Aguilar. I'm going to go with Stewart Nicoll in this one. I'm going to go with maybe a TKO on the ground, if I'm being honest. This fight's kind of tricky, in my opinion, because I think Jesús Aguilar is going to have a significant stand-up advantage over a guy like Stewart Nicoll. From the tape that I was able to find of Stewart, he's very unorthodox on the feet. A lot of his weaponry is right side leg kick. He likes to go to the either outside or, if you're a southpaw, the inside. He throws a right straight a lot of the times. Doesn't really use a jab. He kind of is still unfinished on the feet skill-wise. So I think Jesús Aguilar, wild exchanges, he's going to have the advantage there. But when it gets to the ground, it's very interesting because Jesús Aguilar has a lot of submission wins on his record. He got into the UFC because of a finish. But also, he's only lost by submission. And Stewart Nicoll, where he thrives, is on the ground. And from the tape I saw, whenever Stewart got a hold of somebody, they couldn't get him off. He latched on and held on the entire time, got to significant parts of control, like the back take to flat mount, and it was honestly very impressive. His last two performances have been against a guy who was 8-4, and then a guy who was 5-0, young Japanese kid, like Issei, what was his name? It was Issei something. Let me see. Oh, I'm on the wrong page. What was it? Issei Katano, and then the other guy, Denshiel Moodley. They both got TKO'd on the ground, which is, you don't see that a lot, especially at flyweight. I just think Stewart Nicoll is very strong for this division, and I think that his grappling is going to take him quite far, which is kind of crazy because at flyweight you have so many dynamic grapplers, so many people who can create such crazy scrambles. But I think Jesús Aguilar being able to get controlled by a guy like Mateusz Mendonça for a large portion of their fight and arguably losing to Mateusz Mendonça, I don't like that. I don't like that visual, especially when Stewart Nicoll, I've seen him do better things on the ground than a Mateusz Mendonça. So, yeah, I just think Stewart Nicoll is just going to be able to outpace, out-cardio Jesús Aguilar, just be able to do more. So, Stewart Nicoll, I think he's going to be able to TKO Jesús Aguilar on the ground. I think he is. If Mateusz Mendonça was able to get to pretty solid positions, I think Stewart Nicoll is going to be able to get to his positions pretty easily against Jesús Aguilar. So, yeah. We move to Song Kenan versus Ricky Glenn. I'm going to go with Song Kenan by first or second round TKO. I just can't pick Ricky Glenn in this day and age. He's only 35, but he moves like a quadriplegic. I've seen Song Kenan go to competitive striking bouts with guys like a Kevin Jesé, and Ian Gary. I've seen him land significant shots and drop. Rolando Bedoya, who I know a lot of people don't rate Rolando Bedoya, but Rolando Bedoya is pretty solid. It's just he's kind of having tough matchups as of recent. He just isn't. He doesn't have the speed. But we've seen Rolando Bedoya, who has more speed than Ricky Glenn, have less success against Song Kenan. I don't see Ricky Glenn being able to move up a weight class at 35 years old that isn't like a heavier weight class either. Like, this isn't a light heavyweight moving up to heavyweight. This is a lightweight moving up to welterweight. He was a big lightweight, so maybe the weight cut really hurt him more than I would think, but I just think Song Kenan's better. I think he's just a better fighter. I think Ricky Glenn's too slow. I think Song Kenan's going to have a master class of a performance against Ricky Glenn, and he's going to make it ugly. And I think Ricky Glenn, I think it's just going to be a speed, and he's just way too slow. He's way too slow for a guy like Song Kenan. So, Song Kenan first or second round TKO, lock it in. We move to Tom Nolan versus Alex Reyes, the older brother of Dominic Reyes. I'm going to go with Tom Nolan in this one. I just think this is going to be an age and time off issue for Alex Reyes. And also, there is something that the Reyes brothers have in common, is the chin. Alex Reyes, 3 of his 4 losses are by first round KO. Tom Nolan is kind of That's his thing. Is he likes to knock out people. But Tom Nolan's always a big risk, big reward, high risk, high reward kind of person because his chin isn't that much better, I'll be honest. Tom Nolan's 6'3" at lightweight, tied for the tallest fighter at lightweight. So I think it was with Jalen Turner. So he gets clipped a lot. And Alex Reyes, his main weapon is his right straight. Tom Nolan is susceptible to that. But I'm going to side with Tom Nolan. I just think Alex Reyes is too old. He's too chinny too, man. His chin is terrible. And also he does leave openings. He is slower. Tom Nolan does work the leg, does work the body with teeps. And he is pretty fluid when it comes to boxing. He just kind of drops his hands at times. But I just don't see Alex Reyes being able to chin Tom Nolan. Alex is 37. He's had a plethora of injuries. He's had 2 fights since 2017. And he's been KO'd in the first round in both of those outings. I mean, like Mike Perry knocked him out. Charlie Campbell knocked him out. He's had 3 fights booked since the Mike Perry one. He's had to pull out of 2 because he was the one injured. He didn't have a fight booked from 2018 to 2023. So he took a lot of time off, man. Well, he had a fight 2018 like March, and then 2023 February is the difference in time. But like I said, Tom Nolan, I think the straight shots are going to work aplenty. Alex Reyes doesn't really move his head. He kind of gets clipped by a lot of 1s and 2s. We saw that in the Charlie Campbell fight. But yeah, I think Tom Nolan, he does throw a lot of specialty moves, likes to throw a lot of he throws a lot of switch kicks. He throws a spinning wheel kick a couple of times. There's couple of spinning attacks. I think it's going to work against Alex Reyes. I say Tom Nolan, first round KO, lock it in. We move to Jack Jenkins versus Herbert Burns. I'm going to go with Jack Jenkins by second round TKO. I just can't pick Herbert Burns to win a fight. I can't do it. Can't do it. Can't do it in the big 24. Herbert Burns, and here's the thing, it is so odd how different Herbert and Gilbert are in mentality. Herbert gives up. I love Gilbert Burns. Herbert isn't named Gilbert for a reason. Herbert gives up. He quits after 4 minutes of fighting. And Jack Jenkins, I think he honestly can make him quit earlier with his leg kicks and body kicks. Jack Jenkins is a very stylistic nightmare for Herbert Burns. Because Herbert Burns, for a grappler, that's his main thing. He's a very big BJJ guy. He doesn't push a crazy pace because his cardio sucks. And this is also short notice across the world. Herbert has only fought once since 2022. Of course, Jack Jenkins is coming off the, the shoulder? Was it shoulder or arm injury that he had? I forget. But from the Chepe Mariscal fight when he got slammed onto his, it was bad. But Jack Jenkins, his cardio is a little suspicious, but it's way better than Herbert Burns. And Jack Jenkins, he's very defensively sound on the feet. We've seen Herbert Burns. He really overthrows. He's reaching for guys. He really likes to reach. He runs into the cage a shit ton. He doesn't really use his size advantage. And he's got weak legs. A lot of people forget that Bill Algeo fight where he literally couldn't stand up. Gilbert had to carry him out of the arena, dude. No. I'm not picking Herbert Burns. Jack Jenkins, I think he's going to slaughter Herbert Burns. If Herbert Burns beats Jack Jenkins will be nothing. But I can't see Herbert Burns beating him. I'll go Jack Jenkins early second round TKO. Maybe even in between the first and second round, Herbert gives up on the stool. But Jack Jenkins by anything he wants. We move to Casey O'Neill versus Luana Santos. I'm going to go with Luana Santos. This is going to be a tricky one. Luana's taken this on, I think, about a week or two's notice. Luana's just looked pretty solid in her UFC 10 years so far. 3-0 over Juliana Miller, Stephanie Egger, Maria Agapova. Not the greatest wins, but she's won them how she should. I mean, Juliana Miller and Maria Agapova, she's won how she should. The Stephanie Egger performance was super short notice, up a weight class against a pretty fucking big Stephanie Egger. But, I think Luana Santos is going to be able to land hard in the pocket. I honestly wonder if she's going to be able to make the weight limit of 125. But I think Luana also, her judo and her submission skills are what I think is going to pay dividends, because we've seen Casey O'Neill struggle on the ground and in the clinch exchanges with girls like Jennifer Maia. And what's Valentina's sister's name? Is it Antoine? Not Antoine. Fucking moron. What? It's Antonina, right? Well, Antonina. Where's she at? Antonina, yeah, Shevchenko. And then also, of course, in her most recent performance, Ariane De Silva was able to tag her on the feet and then sub her. Or it was Ariane Lipski when the fight happened, but it's Ariane De Silva now. But I think Luana Santos, I think that fight's going to play like this. I think that Casey O'Neill can have a lot of success on the feet because Luana does leave some openings, but I think Casey O'Neill kind of allows herself to get into clinch exchanges with girls. And I think Luana Santos, her judo is pretty fucking high level. I think she's going to be able to take advantage of some exchanges like that. So Luana Santos, I'll go with first round submission. I'll go with a first round sub by Luana Santos. I'll go with an armbar. Fuck it. We move to Josh Culibao versus Ricardo Ramos. I'm going to go with Josh Culibao by... I'll go first round TKO. Ricardo Ramos, he's kind of like a young Charles Oliveira. He's kind of dangerous, but he kind of gives up in certain positions. We've seen that a couple of times. He's been finishing the first round a lot. 3 submission losses in the first round, 2 losses, 2 TKOs in the first round, 5 losses overall in just the first round. He's kind of a first round kind of fighter, but he's able to go longer if he doesn't blow his wad or get clipped early enough. But I think Josh Culibao is going to be the type of guy that's going to be able to clip Ricardo Ramos pretty early. I think it's going to be a speed advantage for Josh Culibao. Ricardo Ramos is a little slower than I would like him to be than Josh Culibao. And I think that Ricardo sometimes rushes in with his hands by his waist, waiting to get clipped. And I think Josh Culibao has enough power to be able to set down Ricardo Ramos. But Josh Culibao, in the early waning seconds of the first round, he has to build himself into a fight. So Ricardo Ramos is dangerous early on, which is why this fight has the appeal it does. But I think Josh Culibao is going to be able to fight out of the early war that Ricardo Ramos is going to bring to him, and he's going to be able to finish him late in the first round. I'll go ground and pound TKO, because Ricardo Ramos kind of does just lay down and give up when presented with a harder challenge than he'd like. And I think Josh Culibao, his cardio, his pace, he's going to be able to bring that to a guy like Ricardo Ramos. And I think honestly the best course of action for Ricardo Ramos in this fight is to grapple with Josh Culibao. But I think Josh Culibao is going to be bigger and more bulky than Ricardo Ramos in this fight, because Josh did used to fight at lightweight. I mean, he fought Jalen Turner at one point, for Christ's sake. But he's starting to fit in at featherweight now. But he's still a pretty big guy for the division. So Josh Culibao, first round TKO. I like his hooks. I like his counter hooks. Ricardo Ramos does tend to get clipped with counter hooks often. So, yeah, I also like Josh Culibao. The way he mixes it up, going for the legs, going for the body with his teep kicks. Ricardo Ramos is very headhunter heavy, I would say. So, yeah. We move to Junior Tafa versus Valtar Walker. I'm gonna go with Valtar Walker, most likely by he's probably going to win by decision. He might be able to TKO him on the ground, but I'll go decision just to be safe. I just think that Valtar Walker is going to be able to take down Junior Tafa when he wants. On the feet, it's going to be very close. Not very close. I think it's going to be pretty discernible to see Junior Tafa outstriking Valtar Walker. But when Valtar Walker wants to, he will take you down. We saw him take down Lucas Brzeski or Dresky 4 out of 5 times or whatever bullshit he did. When he gets you on the ground, I also think that Junior Tafa is just not strong enough, because I think Valtar Walker is very strong. He also looks in great shape. on his Instagram and his Twitter. He's not Twitter, but photos have been surfacing of Valtar Walker in this training camp. He looks fucking huge, and I think him and Johnny actually have gone to Khabib and training with them, because Johnny right now is training with Khabib and those guys. So I imagine Valtar kind of just went with him because they're both kind of inbred. But I think Valtar, in this fight, he should go for the ground a shit ton, because if he stands and bangs with Junior Tafa gang, brother, you're going to get clipped, because Valtar does leave a lot of openings on the feet. He is kind of dumb and big, but Valtar, if he wants to win, will take down Junior Tafa at will. Junior Tafa does have some good takedown defense. He's got good hips. He has a good sprawl. He's good against the cage. But I think Valtar's just so insanely strong that he should just be able to lift Junior Tafa and slam him. And I hope he worked on his cardio, because he does slow down. But yeah, Valtar, he's just got more experience as well, I feel, as an MMA fighter, and he trains with probably better guys. So I'll go with Valtar Walker decision. We move to the start of the main card. Jingliang versus Carlos Prates. I'm going to go with Carlos Prates on this one, sadly. I just don't think I can pick Jingliang against a dynamic striker and fighting nerd alum in Carlos Prates when Jingliang hasn't fought in coming up on 2 years. And the reason why, it wasn't because he was like reinventing himself. He had a very bad back injury. I want to say he broke his fucking back, and he struggled to rehabilitate himself, that's never good. And so unless Jingliang has become even better than what he was after a career-altering injury, which I don't think he has, I think Carlos Prates should win this stand-up affair fairly easily. Carlos Prates is an imposing figure, and one of the things I think that's going to treat him well is the fact that he's a southpaw against Jingliang. I like all of Carlos Prates' weapons, and I think the straight punches are going to really be effective against a guy like Lee, because some of the best weapons against Lee have been straight punches, like Daniel Rodriguez showed. And also, Lee does kind of overextend during moments, and I think this fight's going to kind of play like a Charles Radke fight, because Carlos Prates has such a reach advantage over Jingliang, and he has such higher hips. It's kind of hard to... And Lee, if he wanted to get an advantage over Carlos, he honestly should try and take down Carlos Prates. But the thing is, Carlos Prates has crazy takedown defense. I think with the time off, with the way that Jingliang fights, with a blitz kind of style, Lee has to pressure his way in all the time. And the only way that we've seen him have significant success is when his opponent's on the back foot for the entire fight, which Carlos Prates is almost never on the back foot unless you blitz him, kind of like Trevin Giles does. You always get clipped. And Jingliang does get clipped. He has a great chin, but I think with the time spent off, with the way these guys, their careers have retrospectively played out since Jingliang's last fight, which was Daniel Rodriguez on short notice since the injury, just the way that Jingliang approaches fights, which is just waiting in the center, kind of going on the front foot. I think Carlos Prates is going to catch him with a left straight and put him out, if I'm being honest. And also, I like Carlos Prates' knees to the body. Carlos Prates likes to mix it up a lot, and I think Jingliang, one of his main weapons is a leg kick. He likes to headhunt a little bit, but he also mixes in a bunch of fucking leg kicks. I think that can actually be to his detriment, because I think Carlos Prates is able to counter leg kicks pretty well. So, yeah, I'll go Carlos Prates. I don't want to say first round KO, but I'll go first round KO over Jingliang. It's going to hurt, but it is what it is. We move to Tuivasa versus Jairzinho Rozenstruik. I'm going to go with Jairzinho Rozenstruik. I think he'll be able to get Tuivasa out of there in the first round. I'll go, first round KO. I just think with the recent track record we've seen from Tuivasa, I think it's very hard to pick him against a not dynamic striker, but well-endowed kickboxer like a Jairzinho Rozenstruik. And here's the thing about Tai Tuivasa. He's still so young. He's still only 31 years old. I just don't know if his head is in the right place when it comes to this. People have been making fun of... Dude's been training at Planet Fitness leading into one of his fights. I think it was going into the fucking Volkov fight. He was at Planet Fitness. He had Taco Bell in his fucking room prior to fighting somebody, which is just like, what the fuck are you doing, man? And I just think Tai Tuivasa, he doesn't even look that good anymore, striking-wise. It looks like he overexudes himself, like, he overextends everything. Like, even leg kicks. He throws a lot of lead leg kicks. I mean, I'm seeing this dude grab the cage and throw a body shot at Marcin Tybura. You know what I mean? I don't think he has it in him anymore. And he's taking a lot of damage. I think that Gon fight took a lot out of him. And then Pavlovich, 3 months afterwards, was it? Didn't help at all. This is the most winnable matchup for him in his recent tenure. And the 5-fight streak he's on, this is the easiest fight to win. Marcin Tybura is close, but Marcin has the grappling. I just think Jairzinho Rozenstruik, I think he's going to have the speed advantage. I think that 1s and 2s are going to work well. Especially from Rozenstruik. That jab Rozenstruik showed in that Shamil Gaziev fight worked wonders. And Tai Tuivasa does move his head, but sometimes he kind of just takes damage and goes in the fire just to eat some shots. And we know Tai Tuivasa will eat a shot to throw a shot. And I like Jairzinho Rozenstruik's style. I think he's more safe than Tai Tuivasa, who will eat a shot. I think Jairzinho Rozenstruik's defense is just a little bit better. And the guys that Jairzinho is losing to, you know, these guys share the Gon and Volkov loss with each other. Of course, Jairzinho got tagged in the first round, and it was a bit of an early stoppage, but it is what it is. One of these guys got TKO'd by Cyril Gane. The other went to a 5-round stinkfest with him. And I think that a stinkfest is better than getting finished by Cyril Gane. But also, Jairzinho Rozenstruik, I think this is the time for him to move. Because he's 36 years old. I think he understands that. And I think he's clown Shamil Gaziev all you want. He's a big fucking guy, man. It's a big dude. And Jairzinho was able to keep him off with a jab. And keep him off, leg kick him to death. I think this is going to be competitive for as long as it lasts. But I think Jairzinho is going to clip Tai Tuivasa a couple of times, hit him a couple of times, and he's not going to like it. Let's not forget Jairzinho has fucking power in his hands. It's just that he's been hesitant to throw the bigger shots. Let's not forget what he did to Chris Daukaus. Alright, when he wants to throw, he'll fucking throw. And I think against Tai Tuivasa is going to make him throw. And I think when Jairzinho is going to land on a damage, war-torn Tai Tuivasa, it's going to have a crazy effect. And I think he'll probably go down in the first. I want Tai to win this fight so bad. I want Tai Tuivasa to win this fight so bad. I can't pick him. I want to pick him, but I can't. Not with the recent fights, not with the recent showings he's had. I just think Jairzinho's more technical. I think he's going to be a little bit quicker. And I think Tai Tuivasa just doesn't want it as much as Jairzinho does. Plain and simple. And Tai Tuivasa is going to have the crowd enabling him to do dumb shit. Yeah, it's over, dude. It's fucking wraps. We move to the featured fight. Mateusz Gamrot versus Dan Hooker. I'm going to go with Mateusz Gamrot. I think he's probably going to win a decision. I'll go unanimous. The only reason why I would pick Dan Hooker in this situation is due to the chin habit of Mateusz Gamrot. If you guys don't know, Mateusz, I think, has been dropped in 4 of his last 5 fights. It's kind of just... The only guy that didn't drop him was Fiziev. That's because Fiziev blew his fucking knee out. But here's my thing about Mateusz Gamrot. A lot of people discredit his striking. A lot of people say his striking is very dog shit. I am a firm believer that his striking is very unorthodox but he does have highlights. I like his jab. I like his ones and twos. He's unorthodox, and I think that's going to be tricky for Dan Hooker to deal with. And the thing is, Dan Hooker isn't insanely fast either, and he's coming off arm injuries. He broke his arm in the Jalen Turner fight. I think he had a facial injury in the Jalen Turner fight as well, and he also re-injured that arm again, going into the Bobby Green fight that he had booked for the UFC Austin, Sarukian versus Beneil Dariush card. He was supposed to fight Bobby Green. He pulled out because he re-injured his arm. So I wonder if he's going to be able to defend takedowns as well as he usually is able to. What's his takedown defense? 81% takedown defense? Not that bad. I think it's still going to be tricky for Mateusz Gamrot because, one, the takedown defense that I just mentioned, 81%, and also Dan Hooker's a pretty big guy, well-proportioned, long legs, pretty solid torso. But I just think Mateusz Gamrot, this matchup was made up pretty quick. I think it's been like 5 weeks maybe less, 4, I think. I don't even know when this fight, I remember it got mentioned by Dan on his Instagram story or some shit. But, yeah. I think Mateusz Gamrot's going to be weird to deal with on the feet. I think Dan Hooker can win this fight because of the chin of Mateusz Gamrot. He does end up getting clipped. But I think Mateusz is able to get out of bad positions pretty well. And his recovery is pretty solid as well. Like, people like to mention the knockdowns and stuff like that, but he's only lost by decision. He's only been dropped. And, I mean, you got a guy like Beneil Dariush landing hard shots on you. You got a guy like Jalen Turner landing hard shots on you. You got a guy like RDA. I know he's not well known for his power, but he still can crack. And, I mean, RDA was able to give Rafael Fiziev some fits on the feet. You know what I mean? And, like, Arman Sarukian, that drop wasn't even that crazy. It was off of a spinning back fist, and Mateusz was on one leg. You know what I mean? I just think that Mateusz Gamrot's grappling is going to offset the striking power or prowess thereof of Dan Hooker. And even on the feet, I think Mateusz Gamrot can land some solid stuff. But I think that this fight, I wonder how Dan's gas tank is going to be at a pace that Mateusz Gamrot sets. Heavy grappling, heavy style. And I mean, Dan Hooker's taken a lot of damage in his career. A lot of damage to the body, a lot of damage to the face. I mean, that Dustin Poirier fight probably changed him forever. So, and including the Jalen Turner fight thereafter, I just think it's going to be a totally different guy we see in that cage. And I think that Mateusz Gamrot, he should be able to get it done. It's a close fight, though. On the feet, it will be. But, yeah. I just think that Mateusz Gamrot is going to be able to mix it in. He's going to be able to do MMA. Mixed martial arts. We move to the co-main event of the evening. Kai Kara France versus Steve Erceg. I'm going to go with Steve Erceg. I'm going to go with unanimous decision, 30-27. I think Kai is tough enough to last. I don't like how long Kai has been outside of the cage. It's been over a year. The last time he fought was June in a fight that he should have won. By the way, he should have beat Amir Albazi. He should have won that fight. That was a blatant robbery. But you also got a guy like Steve Erceg who went 5 hard rounds with Alexandre Pantoja. And I think the big difference in this fight is just styles. Steve Erceg, the only reason why he even struggled an ounce in the Pantoja fight is because, one, Pantoja can offensively grapple his ass off. He's able to scramble. And also, Alexandre creates his own pressures. Kai Kara France, for a large portion of fights, will sometimes find himself on the back foot. And I don't like that, especially against a bigger, pretty solid striker like slash boxer like Steve Erceg. I like the angles that Steve Erceg can fight at. He's able to move his head, and he's able to get out of the way, and his chin complements him well. He's able to take a shot. And I just think Steve Erceg has an aura about him right now. A lot of people think that he should have won that Alexandre Pantoja fight, me included. But it's not just because I picked him, I swear. I think Steve Erceg's boxing is just his range control, the height advantage he has over Kai Kara France. He's not taking this fight, short notice like the Dvorak fight, or, kind of short notice like the Pantoja fight. Like, this is a full camp for him. Well, not even really. He fought fucking in May. But I just think that Steve Erceg, his length is going to give Kai Kara France fits, and Kai has been out of the cage for so long, and he's been fighting grapplers. You know, like Amir Albazi, Askar Askarov. I mean, Brandon Moreno can strike, but, you know, the best moments for Kai Kara-France was actually up close. I just struggle to believe that he's going to be able to get in close enough. And also, I think Pantoja hits pretty hard, and he landed some flush shots on Steve Erceg, and Kai is pretty counterable. And that's one of the things I also like about Steve Erceg are his counter shots. His counters are very, very well placed. And Kai Kara-France does tend to rush in at moments. Kind of, not rush in, but he'll just throw a wild one overhand right and kind of get out of the... But I think that Steve Erceg should be able to not should, but can be able to counter him on those moments. And I think that Steve Erceg's going to push a pace in this fight. I like the cardio in the Alexandre Pantoja fight. Pantoja pushes a hell of a pace. And Steve Erceg, that was off a bad weight cut. He doesn't even have to cut the extra pound. He can weigh in at 136 for this fight. But I think Steve Erceg's boxing. I also like the leg kicks for both guys in this fight. But I just think that the sheer size of Steve Erceg, the boxing that benefits him as well. Kai Kara-France can strike, but this is just going to be a striking matchup. And that does help Kai Kara-France a little bit. But also we've seen that Steve Erceg shoots takedowns on guys like Alexandre Pantoja. He's able to grapple with guys like Alexandre Pantoja. I know Kai Kara-France has great defensive grappling, but I think Steve Erceg can even mix that in a little bit, give him any idea of the takedown, and kind of have more success on the feet as well. I just think that Steve Erceg is going to be better than Kai Kara-France. I think the time off's really going to kill Kai Kara-France. I think the size, like I said, I've repeated myself a lot, but you know what I mean. Steve Erceg, I don't think he'll finish Kai Kara because Kai Kara-France has some. He's a pretty durable guy, but I think it's going to be a dominant victory. If you guys remember my video, fights that will not be competitive, I put this as my flyweight fight because I just think that Steve Erceg is significantly better than Kai Kara-France. But yeah, 30-27. Astro Boy. We move to the main event of the evening: Dricus du Plessis versus Israel Adesanya. The fight for Africa. I'm going to go with Israel Adesanya on this one. It's going to be a tricky fight. This fight is very hard to predict because Dricus' style is so hard to, like, root for. Because he looks so sloppy, but it works because middleweight is not great. And the thing is, maybe I'm falling for the trap. Israel Adesanya, I will say this, I think his striking gets very overrated by the casuals, but just because I say that doesn't mean it's not good. Israel is a great striker, but some guys come on here and say he's the best striker ever in UFC history. No. I think that Israel can win this fight, and I think he will win this fight, because I think that what Dricus does is a blitz. He does put pressure forward, but it isn't a Sean Strickland type of pressure where he's very defensively sound. Dricus is a very open fighter, and I think that's going to cause a lot of problems for him against a striker like Israel Adesanya. Israel will only struggle against bigger guys who have good defense. Like Sean Strickland, the only reason Sean Strickland beat Israel Adesanya is because his defense is that good. He is the least hit middleweight in UFC history, and Israel Adesanya fell for the trap. I think and we saw Dricus was able to land on Sean, but that's because Dricus was able to go into the fire. Israel was scared to go in the fire. But here's the thing, Israel looks pretty bulked up, and I think that some of the weapons Israel uses, like a counter left hook, I think his leg kicks are going to play a part in this fight. I think Dricus, his lead leg is pretty heavy. He leans pretty heavy on it. He isn't a very bouncy guy. He's very, robust. And I think Dricus can win this fight. And honestly, I think he should win this fight. I think he should. But I can't shake a feeling. This could play out like my Volkov-Pavlovich pick, where I just can't shake the image out of my head of Israel Adesanya tagging Dricus with a left hook or a high kick. Maybe Israel goes to his legs a bunch because he is on the outside a lot, throws a bunch of leg kicks, maybe brings one up high, Dricus reaches down, or he just doesn't, or he rushes in, catches one to the head. The only reason why I struggle to pick Israel in this fight is because of the durability and grappling of Dricus du Plessis. But I also think that Israel Adesanya, his takedown defense is some of the best it can probably be. I really like the takedown defense of Israel Adesanya. A lot of people will pick up the video of Alex Pereira being able to take down Israel. I think that's horseradish. I think nobody was expecting Alex Pereira to shoot on a guy like Israel Adesanya, and that's the only reason he really got it. And also, Alex is a big fucker. But Dricus, he sometimes shoots from way out. I want to say he gets tired, but he doesn't. Dricus honestly has one of the best gas tanks at middleweight, which is so stupid to say because he looks so gassed every time, but he still was able to throw hard. But I think if you chew that lead leg up of Israel Adesanya, which Sean Strickland wasn't really able to do, I think if you add the body attacks from Israel, I like the body kick of Israel Adesanya, very on point. If you shatter the body of Dricus, if you beat the legs and body of Dricus, the head will be wide open. It's already wide open, but it'll even be more open. And I think that's where I think Israel's going to have success. I think Dricus can win, but I'm going to go with the last style bender. I think he's going to regain his title, even though I don't really like it. I'm not a huge fan of Israel. I kind of want Dricus to win because I think that'd be a crazy moment for the UFC. But I can't shake that image of Dricus blitzing in like a moron and just getting clipped with a check left hook and just getting crumpled on the floor. Or maybe Israel just styles on him. I don't think he'll style on him. I think it will be close in moments. I think Dricus' durability will carry him for a majority of this fight. I think he's also going to be able to grab a hold of Israel. And I think Israel does have some shortcomings in the clinch game. I will say that. But, yeah, I just think that Dricus is too sloppy. I mean, he's too sloppy of a striker. Even though his striking does work at a high level, I think Israel is just a little bit too technical for him. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Israel has another shitty performance. We'll never know until fight day. But, yeah. Israel, I think he'll KO him. Third round TKO. I'll go third. It has to be in the first two, though. He never KOs people. Late second round TKO. That's what late second round TKO or unanimous decision 48-47. Lock it in. I'm UFC Thoughts. These have been my picks and breakdown for every fight on UFC 305. Plessis vs. Adesanya on August 17th, 2024. My confident picks reside with Tom Nolan, Carlos Prates, and in the co-main event, Steve Erceg. My pre-card rating is a 7 out of 10. Pretty decent pay-per-view. Every pay-per-view of the year has been pretty fucking solid. And this is yet another one. The main card has, 4 pretty solid fights. I'd say even 5. I think Jingliang Carlos Prates is a sleeper fight. I think if you don't know who Carlos Prates is, I think this is going to be a great introduction to him. The rest of the card, I will say the prelims aren't really stacked, and a lot of the matchups do kind of just lean into the Aussies winning or the New Zealand guys. Actually, are there any New Zealand dudes on the fucking prelims? No, it's all Aussie. But yeah, there are just some matchups that I find weird, like a Song Kenan versus Ricky Glenn, a Tom Nolan versus Alex Reyes. I know some of these are also short notice, like Ricardo not Ricardo Ramos. Which ones were short notice? Luana, Santos, and Herbert Burns subbing in on short notice. But yeah, pretty solid card. Hope I do well. Leave some comments. Who do you think is going to win? Like the video if you liked it. I'll see you guys for the recap. Peace.